Fellow vets, at the end of this video, you're going to know the real top 10 easiest VA ratings to win. And I say the real top 10 because most of the other lists, the top 10, top 5 lists, they all copy each other. And it's really the top most awarded service-connected disability claims. It doesn't really help you because that means that's what most people are getting. You don't want to be average in this process because simply the average veteran is underrated. So this is the real top 10 based on my thousands of cases of taking on veterans in the real world, right? And I know that, hey, your medical evidence in service isn't perfect. Maybe a lot of these you're having trouble getting service connected for. So this is the real life top 10 list, and I think, quite frankly, the only one on YouTube. So VA Claims Academy, baby. I'm Jordan Anderson. Let's get right into it with number 1. This is going to be military sexual trauma, okay? MST, kind of sensitive, heavy subject. But if you were abused sexually during your military service and you currently have a diagnosis for military sexual trauma, okay, every single one of these needs to be currently diagnosed, right? You need a diagnosis first. So if you have a diagnosis for military sexual trauma, the only thing you need now is a good personal statement outlining your social and occupational impairment. There's no need for a proof of a stressor event. There's no need for a nexus letter, and that is why it's number 1, okay? Along the similar vein here, number 2, we have a very common one. This is why, it's so high value too. And it's combat-related PTSD. I'm gonna underline this, combat PTSD. The reason that not any PTSD can be easily service connected, and this is the top 10 easiest ones to win list. The reason this is number 2 is because combat related PTSD, the nature of combat, a lot of it is sensitive, a lot of it's classified. So again, just like with military sexual trauma, with combat related PTSD, which in your personal statement, of course, you're going to explicitly outline that, hey, this happened during combat, my stressor event was during combat. During the C&P exam, you're not going to talk about your childhood, you're not going to talk about anything. Your stressor event was during combat. They're not going to require, again, proof of a stressor event. So at nexus letter, out the window, you don't need it. Proof of a stressor event, police records, all that stuff, you're not going to need it. With non-combat PTSD, guess what? It's difficult. Okay, I see a lot of VSOs filing non-combat PTSD in really bad ways because it's a pain. The VA is going to be, on your butt for, give me proof of this. When did this happen? Give me proof. Not ideal. Number 3. So we have, this is a PACT Act one. So we're talking Gulf War veterans, okay, specifically burn pits for this one. We're talking about breathing ailments. Now, the reason that this is pretty easy is because if you were exposed to burn pits, okay, we're talking about the PACT Act here, which by the way was passed by Congress, I believe in 2022, and it makes a lot of otherwise really difficult conditions that we're getting, denied. It makes them presumptively service connected. Right here for number 3 specifically, I'm talking about COPD, I'm talking about asthma, rhinitis, sinusitis, or maybe you have all of the above. If you're a Gulf War veteran, I'm going to have a link in the description below for the presumptive conditions list for the PACT Act. Hey, see if you qualify. See if you were at the right place at the right time, or really the wrong place at the wrong time, right? But if you qualify for which location and time period that you were in, a lot of your breathing stuff that you have a diagnosis for is going to be automatically presumptively service connected. Again, all of these you just need a personal statement for. That's super easy. Of course, we have templates fully pre-written and battle tested at VA Claims Academy. Link is in the description below. Number 4, this is again a PACT Act. So we're also doing PACT Act here, but here we're talking about CFS, and this is incredibly high value, / fibromyalgia. So these are incredible high value claims. By the way, if you are getting value out of this video, please just hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds. And also more importantly, share it with a fellow veteran who needs to hear it, because I won't get too into it, but the feedback that I've gotten, just trust me, you have a real human impact when you share these things, because if this is making you feel like you have hope and it's making you feel like you learned something, Guess what? All of us are one or two mutual friends away from a fellow veteran who's ready to give it all up. I won't get into specifics with the feedback I've gotten, but trust me, it's a real thing. We're in a pressure cooker right now of an era. We're in a pressure cooker of a country. And having some real life economic relief can not only change a life, but it can save one. So that doesn't just go for my videos. Any videos that you find can help a fellow veteran out, please share them. That's the most important thing. Okay, chronic fatigue syndrome / fibromyalgia. Again, Gulf War veteran especially, check the PACT Act presumptive list. Chronic fatigue syndrome, we have a personal statement template that has a goal for 100% rating, okay? Chronic fatigue syndrome is incredibly high value. Fibromyalgia, same thing. These can be presumptively service-connected under the PACT Act. Number 5. Now, this isn't incredibly high value, and we're getting to number 5 here, so, and this is for jumpers. All right, this can be knees for the parachuters, okay? This is for, people who jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. Guess what? You may not need a nexus letter. If you have a knee pain, bilateral knee pain, and you get a good personal statement saying, hey, I jumped at these times, I definitely had a bad parachute opening, I was really discouraged from going to medical call as we were back in the day. A lot of times, especially if you catch the rater in a good mood, sometimes they'll give that to you. They'll check your MOS, make sure you mention your MOS. Hey, clearly I was jumping. Sometimes they'll give that to you. If not, hey, they might make you pay, they might make you go get a personal statement. So number 6, this is more high value. And this is still for, my parachuters. Back pain, so back and spine. So if you jumped out of a plane, same thing, along with knee pain, except this is much more high value. So hey, if you got denied with just a personal statement for back, if you see my back pain video, you know that you can get rated for back way higher than what most people think is the maximum if you play chess and not checkers. So at this point, it would be way more worth it to pay for a nexus letter somewhere for your back pain rather than knees, because it's much more high value for you. Number 7. This is the number 1 on most people's list, but this is updated for, going into 2024. So in my opinion, it's much more of a number 7 now, okay? And the reason why is because obviously these in the real world are much easier to get service connected, but also tinnitus is not very high value, but I'm gonna show you how to make it high value in number 8, 9, and 10, so make sure you absolutely stick around for those. And this specifically, tinnitus, is MOS dependent, in terms of not getting a nexus letter for it, right? If you don't have a diagnosis in service, but you are on the list of MOSs that is considered high noise exposure, and I'm gonna leave a link in the description below that has a list of those MOSs to see if you qualify for that, hey, at that point, it's worth just going to, apply for it, write a bulletproof personal statement. Don't pay for an expensive nexus letter because it's only a 10% rating, right? It's a low value claim, this tinnitus, but let me show you here how to make that a high value claim. Number 8 is SSD/CPS. We love our acronyms, right? This is somatic symptom disorder / chronic pain syndrome, and I'm gonna add a star here because number 8, 9, and 10 are going to require nexus letters, okay? These are going to require nexus letters, but they're high value, so check this out. Somatic symptom disorder or chronic pain syndrome, they're essentially synonymous. They're mental claims, okay? And what they are is they're really easy to attach secondary to existing service-connected conditions. Here's what I mean by that. If you have tinnitus right now, service-connected. If you have back pain, service-connected. If you have knee pain, service-connected. IBS, GERD, currently service-connected. Guess what? These things, when you have flare-ups, when you have episodes, are they making you feel like you're having your best day of your life? Clearly not, right? There is a mental toll, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to be vulnerable or not, there's a mental toll when your service-connected ailments are causing you flare-ups. It's ruining your day. It's ruining your mood. These are manifested in what is called somatic symptom disorder. Basically, hey, my symptoms are causing me mental stress / chronic pain syndrome. Hey, my chronic pain is causing me mental stress, resulting in occupational and social impairment. The same thing we talked about with MST, the same thing we talked about with PTSD, and that's why my mental personal statement template that is in the course applies to any of those, because these are all rated the exact same. PTSD is rated the same as insomnia, believe it or not. Speaking of insomnia, that is number 9. But why is that on this list? Because we're talking about insomnia secondary to tinnitus, okay? This is what I meant when I said tinnitus is a low value claim, but you can make it high value if you play strategy, if you play chess, not checkers. Again, there's a star next to this, which means that it does require a nexus letter because this is a secondary claim saying that, hey, our tinnitus, this alarm clock that's going in our head, going off in our ears 24/7, guess what? That makes it pretty dang hard for me to sleep. And insomnia is rated as a mental claim. Insomnia is rated the same way as military sexual trauma is, okay, in terms of how they rate you in terms of percentage. It doesn't mean it's as easy to win, because obviously this is number 1 and this is number 9 for a reason. But you can get, again, we win on average for insomnia a 70% rating. So if you turn that little 10% low value claim into a 70%er because you have a nexus letter saying that, hey, his alarm clock going off in his head, yeah, dang sure leads to insomnia, that's easy. It's a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario, and that is why it's on this list. Finally, we have another high value claim for those of you who made it all the way to the end here, and this is migraines. And again, we are going secondary to tinnitus here. So let me see if I can zoom you in. Can I zoom you in? Yeah. So we're going migraines secondary to tinnitus here because, again, we have an incredible ringing in our ears. It is very loud. This can absolutely trigger headache attacks, trigger migraines, and this secondary to tinnitus. Again, we're taking a low value claim, but if you have an insomnia diagnosis, if you have a headache or migraine diagnosis, come with a migraine log that's even better, showing that you have multiple migraines per month, what have you, it takes you out. Maybe you're missing work, that's the threshold for a 50%. You've turned this 10% rating to a 70 plus a 50 plus a 10%. What is that going to be, like an 85% real life rating out of that 10%? And this is the real top 10 easiest way to win these claims. Top 10 easiest VA claims to actually win. Again, if you had value from this, if it inspired hope in you, hit that like button and absolutely share it with a fellow veteran who needs it. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, vets.